He said, what about those two midweek wins against Mississippi State and Southern Miss? So first, you go to the Mississippi State series in Oxford, right? Ole Miss wins game one on a Thursday night with Dylan DeLucia on the mound, 4-2. The Rebels lose game two, 10-7, and you may remember that is the game where Hancock hit a home run in the first inning for Mississippi State to take a 1-0 lead. And then the Rebels got back-to-back-to-back home runs from Justin Bench, Jacob Gonzalez, and Tim Elko to make it 3-1. They're all solo home runs. Otherwise, that one would have gotten out of hand early, and Ole Miss led 4-1. But then Mississippi State ended up getting the win. And they pulled away in the 6th, 7th, and 8th innings. Scored a bunch of runs in the middle of the game with 2 in the 6th, 4 in the 7th, and 3 in the 8th. And then they held on as Ole Miss got 3 in the bottom of the 9th inning. They won that game 10-7. And then you may remember game 3 from that series. It was an 11-inning walk-off win for Mississippi State. It wasn't a walk-off. It was in the top of the 11th when Brad Cumbest hit the home run, the deep home run that made it 7-6, and Mississippi State won the series. And Ole Miss, with that, fell to 6-12 in the SEC. And then they turned around 2 days later, and they, they played in Pearl, played the Governor's Cup. And Ole Miss won that game 5-2. So, hey, Dad, you have said for a while now, this was before we got into any College World Series conversation, you thought that the win over Mississippi State in the Governor's Cup might have been the most important win for Ole Miss this year.
Yeah. I think that game, I think it turned 2 seasons, honestly. I think State, had they won that game, I think that maybe they wouldn't have fallen apart quite as bad as they did. But for Ole Miss, I felt like they really needed that. They really needed a confidence builder. They were able to even the season series against Mississippi State, which they had, it would have been, 5 straight years of losing that series. I think that game just gave them a lot of confidence. Remember the week before that, on a Tuesday night, I think it was.
Yeah.
They got crushed at home by Southeast Missouri, and then they lose 2 out of 3 to State, and you think, okay, they're starting to fall apart here. And instead they go down to Pearl and they win the Governor's Cup that they hadn't won in 4 tries. I think that gave them a little boost of confidence that they took with them the rest of the season. I think that's the start of don't let the Rebs get hot. It started that day.
If not for a Taiwan Malone home run in the bottom of the 8th inning to make it 11-2 against Southeast Missouri State, they would have gotten 10-run ruled at home by SEMO. Ended up getting beat by 10, but they played the full 9 innings in that ballgame. So then Ole Miss goes to Arkansas, and they lose 2 out of 3, but they looked different that weekend.
Pitched it very well.
They did. They won game 1 4-2. They lost game 2 6-3, but you remember that was a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 9th inning, a 3-run home run for Arkansas. And then they lost a 1-run game. They pitched it well, and they played good defense, but it wasn't by any stretch of the imagination a complete weekend at the plate. Tons of opportunities missed for Ole Miss offensively in which they could have won the series or possibly even swept the series. But that was the mark, May 1st, where you look at Ole Miss, and they are 7-14 in the SEC. And then things got a little bit better. So this is what we were talking about a second ago. If you look at the last month of the season and you change one thing, the outcome of one game, we're not having this conversation because the margin for error for Ole Miss was 0. They sweep Missouri to get to 10-14.
Yeah, there's another one. If they just win 2,
yeah,
do they even make the tournament?
No. They have a loss to Missouri? No.
Everything that happened in the regular season, from the end of the Mississippi State series on, you change one win to a loss, and I don't think Ole Miss makes it. And if you play the Arkansas State game, I don't think Ole Miss makes it. Everything had to happen the way it happened.
So they sweep Missouri. They go on the road to Hattiesburg, and they get a 4-1 win over Southern Miss and played really, really well.
A massive win in hindsight also.
And probably not what you expected. Did you expect Drew McDaniel to give you 5 innings of 4-hit, 1-run baseball and a start in Hattiesburg with 8 strikeouts?
Nope.
That's what he did. And then Jackson Kimbrell, who I don't think pitched in the postseason, inning and 2/3 scoreless with 2 strikeouts. Josh Mallitz goes an inning and a third with 3 strikeouts, and Brandon Johnson gives up a hit, but he pitches the final inning and strikes out 2, and Ole Miss gets that win 4-1. And then Ole Miss packs their bags in Hattiesburg, and they go a little farther south to Baton Rouge. And you remember they started a game on Friday night with Dylan DeLucia, and he was pitching pretty well. Mikhail Hilliard on the mound for LSU. LSU took the early lead in that ball game with a Dylan Cruz 2-run home run, 2-0. And then the rain came. It was 2-2, and then it was 4-2 on a game that started at 7:45 on a Friday night and resumed at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. And Ole Miss got the game 1 win, 5-3.
It's Dylan DeLucia's second most impressive pitching performance of the season. The first being the Thursday against Arkansas to send them to the national championship. Starting a game one night, having to sleep on it, and then starting again the next day and winning that.
He's pretty dominant against Auburn in the College World Series also.
Yeah, he was. It's hard to – but just the sleeping on it is just you don't see that, like, ever.
Well, and then they beat LSU 11-1 in the second game of the day on Saturday, and then they win the series 8-5. Now, you remember they lost 2 of 3 to Texas A&M. Lost the first, won the second, lost the third.
It was fluky. It was weird, especially game 1 was weird. DeLucia got squared up a lot, which just doesn't happen to him. Remember, he got chased early.
He threw 57 pitches in an inning and 2/3.
Yeah, that was a weird series altogether.
Yeah. So then you go to the SEC tournament, and you get bounced on Tuesday, and they lose 3-1 to Vanderbilt. Now, there are a lot of people that have asked the question, in hindsight, did that turn out to be a good thing? I guess you can't argue with the results, but what you didn't know at the time was that you had done enough to get in. You thought walking away on Tuesday night, you've done enough to get in. And then you watched the rest of the week happen in Hoover, with Alabama getting hot, with Kentucky winning some games. Turned out neither of those teams really factored in. You watched what was happening in the ACC tournament. You watched what was happening in the Conference USA tournament, in the Sun Belt tournament. And as that week went on, you thought the Ole Miss season was over. We didn't think Ole Miss was getting in, guys. We decided that we were doing a show on Memorial Day Monday because we always do, and we thought the entirety of the 3 hours was going to be about Southern Miss as a host and what was going to happen next for Ole Miss baseball.
I mean, we basically said Southern Miss deserves to have a show. Like, we'll do this because of the USM fans who listen. That was our thought process.
And then we had something else to talk about because Ole Miss got in. And then